There we go. Linear measure. It starts with some problems like you saw in probably elementary school where you're just measuring the length of something. In this case, we're measuring the length of a line segment. As you can see, they lined it up with 0, and then they want you to find the length. So we notice it's in a scale of centimeters, and it's at about 5.5 centimeters. So you could write 5.5 centimeters. You could say that's 5.5 centimeters. You could also measure it in millimeters. Each centimeter is 10 millimeters, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, plus 5 would be 55 millimeters. The next one is in a scale of inches, and it shows the inches broken up into fourths. So that looks like 2 1/4 inch. Or you could say 2.25 inches. The next 3 problems is where we apply the betweenness of points concept. And yes, the concept is pretty much common sense. It's asking what the length of NQ is, the entire segment. Well, that must be 1 plus 1/4. 1 1/4, sorry. When you add mixed numbers, you add the whole number, and then you add any fractions. If there was fractions here, we'd add it, but it's just 2 1/4 inch. And for number 4, it's asking how long the segment AC is. Well, that must be 4.9 plus 5.2. We'll do math the old-fashioned way by hand. And I get 10.1. So far, pretty easy, right? The next one, number 5, it asks for the length of segment GH. It's this part right here. In order to find that length, you would have to subtract 15 minus 9.7. So that's what I'm going to do. 15.0 minus 9.7. Remember, you do have to line up your decimals. There is a portion of the geometry EOC and the quarterly assessments that's no calculator, so you have to still remember how to do basic math by hand if needed. Okay, the next few are the ones that people get stuck on, and it's not the math, it's like setting it up. So it says to find the value of x and yz if y is between xz. The problem is they didn't draw this for you. They want you to draw it on your own. So it says y is between xz. So this is what it would look like. You have segment xz, and y is between them. So we'll put it here. And we're going to use the same setup for the problems. So number 6, it gives us a bunch of numbers. First off, I'm going to set it up, and I'm going to draw it over here. The same thing. So x and z, and y is right here. Now I'm going to set it up with the numbers they gave me. They said xy is 5x. So I'm going to put 5x here as a note for myself. YZ is a length of x. And it also says that XY is 25. So that's a 25 right there. From here, I'm going to look back at what they're asking. They're asking to find the value of x and the length of YZ. So to find x in this situation, I notice that 5x is equal to the 25. So I'm going to put that equal and use algebra to solve. So 5x equals 25, so that must mean that x equals 5. That only gives me half of the correct answer. The other half is the length of yz. It says yz is equal to x, so therefore yz equals 5 as well. Do you want to do number 7 or 8? I'll let you choose. Or do you care? Okay, I'll just jump to 8. I'm not sure how much time we'll have in class, so I'm not going to do every problem. So for 8, same setup, and we're going to draw it again. We have segment X, Z, with Y in between. It tells us that XY is 4x, and YZ is 3x. And it says XZ, so the entire thing here is 42. So you might be thinking, oh, I know how to do this. Yes, we're going to set up an equation. So 4x plus 3x must equal 42. And that's how we're going to set it up. 4x plus 3x equals 42. And then we'll solve for x using algebra. You combine your like terms. And then divide both sides by 7. And I get x equals 6. The problem doesn't just ask for x, though, it also asks for the length of yz. So yz is equal to 3x. So if yz equals 3x, then yz must equal 3 times 6. So yz equals 18. It's all downhill from here. The next ones are easier. And it's not hard, it's just more steps than the other problems. Okay, so are we ready to move on to number 10? Determine whether each pair of segments is congruent. So congruent means the same length. It asks if BE and CD are congruent. It looks like they're the same measure, so yes, they are congruent. Number 11 asks if MP and NP are congruent. They are different lengths, so no, they are not congruent. Next, WX, so you find that, and WZ. No, they are not congruent. Okay, let's look at the back. Again, I'm not going to write out every problem, I'll just choose specific ones. Number 1, measuring that, it's in inches, and inches are broken up into 16ths, which you may or may not remember off the top of your head. So to measure this, you would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 11. So it's at 1 and 11/16 of an inch. And then over here, it's in centimeters. So it looks like it's at about 4.2 centimeters. I'm not going to do the math. In order to do this to find the length of PS, you would just add those two numbers. For 4, you're dealing with fractions. You would add these two mixed numbers. Let me review that. So to add 2 3/8 plus 1 1/4, you would add the whole numbers, but then you also have to add the fractions together. They need to have a common denominator. So you would multiply 4 by 2 to get 8, and then do that to the top as well. So you get 2 and 3/8 plus 1 and 2/8. Then you can add your whole numbers together to get 3, and your fractions together to get 5/8. For number 5, you would have to subtract these numbers to get that missing part of the segment there. And then 6 and 7, that's the ones that you have to set up. So, would you like me to do 6 or 7? Or do you care? Or both? It's up to you. Okay, both? Okay. So, K is between JL. So we get J here and L, and it says K is in between. So that's going to be the setup we use for these problems. Now I'm going to draw it out over here so I can plug in the numbers. It says JK is 6x, KL is 3x, and JL, so the entire thing is 27. From here, to find x, I would have to do 6x plus 3x equals 27. Combine your like terms and just solve. So I got x equals 3, that's part of the correct answer. The other part is I'm going to plug this 3 in for the x to get the length of KL. So KL would be 3 times 3, so KL must be 9. For number 7, I'm actually going to just use this setup to label it. I'll do 2x. KL is x plus 2. It's been warm like all week, but today it's like very warm. 5x minus 10. This one's a little bit more math. Okay, so it says the entire thing is 5x minus 10. So I'll do 2x plus x plus 2 equals 5x minus 10. Then use algebra. 2x plus x is 3x plus 2. And now I'm just going through the steps to solve this. We get to x equals 6 at the end. Okay. Then, to find the length of KL, we just plug in 6 for the x. So KL equals 6 plus 2, so KL equals 8. Then these are pretty easy. Number 10, it says, I feel like some people are still writing. Number 10, it asks if GF is congruent to FE. Even though they both have like dash marks, the dash marks are different. So the ones that are congruent have the same. So GF is equal to HE, but it's not equal to FE. So this would be no here. And then last but not least, carpentry. Jorge used the figure at the right to make a pattern for a mosaic he plans to inlay on a tabletop. Name all of the congruent segments in the figure. Well, if they're congruent, then they have the same number of dash marks, so I can say that FE is congruent to BC. So segment FE is congruent to BC. We can also say that all of the other segments are congruent to each other because they all have the 2 dash marks. So we can say FA is congruent to AB, and that's congruent to ED, and that's congruent to DC.